He worked for years to make his family proud, but they chose a Caribbean cruise over his graduation. They never thought he'd cut them off for good until the inheritance was gone. When they showed up at his door, he said 6 words that changed everything. "We already did. I just started without. My name is Ethan. I'm 28, and just last month I graduated from medical school, top of my class. By all accounts, that should have been one of the greatest moments of my life. Standing there in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, I should have felt unstoppable. But as I looked toward the section reserved for my family, 12 padded chairs labeled with gold-lettered name cards, all I saw were empty seats. Every single one. Not my mom, not my stepfather, not my younger sister. Not even Aunt Carol, who had promised me over and over that she wouldn't miss it for the world. Apparently, the world was a Carnival cruise to the Bahamas, but let me rewind. I wasn't born into a family that applauded academic achievement. In my household, getting straight A's either meant you were trying too hard or trying to make everyone else feel inferior. That was just how things were. My mom would say things like, "No one likes a show-off, Ethan," whenever I came home with a perfect report card, or worse, "Okay, Mr. Genius, you think you're better than us now." Whenever I dared to dream aloud about becoming a doctor, it wasn't just my mom. My stepfather, Ron, took pride in being the loudest man in the room with the least meaningful things to say. "I don't trust any guy who can't change his own oil," he'd declare. To him, medicine was just book stuff, and book stuff was for people who couldn't survive in the real world. But I didn't care. I was stubborn. I studied like my life depended on it. When I landed a scholarship to medical school, I wasn't expecting a parade, but I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd finally be proud. They weren't. My mom asked why I didn't just become a nurse like her friend's daughter. "It's quicker and you still get to wear scrubs," she said. Still, I kept trying. I invited them to every milestone: my white coat ceremony, clerkship match day, residency interviews. Each time, the response was the same: flights were too expensive. They were too busy that week. Ron didn't like big cities. Eventually, I stopped pushing. I would simply send updates to the family group chat, which were usually met with silence or a thumbs-up emoji from my little sister, the only one who hadn't yet grown completely jaded. But graduation was supposed to be different. This wasn't just another milestone. It was the finish line after 8 relentless years of sacrifice. Night shifts, holiday study marathons, missed birthdays, missed funerals. I'd slept in my car more times than I wanted to admit, trying to make rent and pay for gas. When I received my residency offer from a prestigious hospital and learned I'd be giving a speech at graduation, I went all out. I spent $12,000 of my own savings to fly everyone in. First-class tickets for my mom and Ron, a luxury hotel suite overlooking the lake, catered dinners. Custom programs listing their names under honored guests. I even arranged floral centerpieces in my mom's favorite colors. I pictured her tearing up when she saw my name in the ceremony brochure. I imagined her saying, "For the first time in my adult life, I'm proud of you." The day before the ceremony, I called to confirm their flights. No answer. I texted nothing. That night, as I rehearsed my speech for the 100th time, my phone lit up. First, a message from my mom: "Ethan, we're not coming. Watching you pretend to be a doctor sounds painful. We booked a cruise instead. Enjoy your fake moment." Then one from Aunt Carol, the same aunt who once told me I was like a son to her. "We'd rather be somewhere worth celebrating." You know how boring those things are. No apology, no hesitation, just that. I stared at the screen until the brightness hurt my eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone. I simply sat there, blinking at their words, feeling something inside me quietly fracture. The next morning, I stood on stage and delivered my speech. People clapped. I smiled. But my eyes kept drifting to those empty front row chairs. Beautiful velvet-lined seats bearing the names of people who had chosen a Caribbean cruise over my proudest moment. Afterward, I shook hands, took photos, and thanked friends and professors whose support had meant more than they would ever know. When I finally returned to my hotel suite, I closed the door behind me and allowed myself to feel it, not just the hurt but the betrayal. The humiliation, the ache of realizing I'd given my family this monumental moment on a silver platter and they had tossed it aside like garbage. I didn't reply to their messages. 2 days later, my mom left a voicemail. Hope it went well. Send pics if you can. I made two decisions that night. First, I had the university print a second ceremonial diploma. I placed it in a sleek black frame, wrapped it in gold paper, and mailed it to my mother's house. Along with it, I included an 8x10 photo I'd taken of the 12 empty chairs, each perfectly aligned beneath a banner that read, "Reserved for the family of Dr. Ethan II." I took a step no one saw coming. But that's a story I'll get to in a moment, because 3 hours after the package arrived at my mom's house, my phone began blowing up with calls and texts. One voicemail from Ron simply said, "You're being dramatic, kid." Another from my mom read, "This is beyond petty," but the one that made me pause was my mother's voicemail. She was sobbing so hard her words were barely comprehensible. "Please, Ethan. I didn't think it would hurt you like this. I thought you knew we were just joking. Please call me, please." I stopped the voicemail halfway through. Around the point where she said, "We didn't think it would matter that much." That sentence told me everything I needed to know. They still didn't get it. They never had. I didn't call her back. I didn't reply to Ron or Aunt Carol either. Instead, I turned off my phone, sat at my kitchen table, and pulled out the photo I had printed before the ceremony. 12 empty chairs, 12 names taped to the backrests like a punchline no one else found funny. That night, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. The reason I'd been able to afford flying everyone in first class wasn't just because of my residency stipend. It was because of a modest inheritance from my grandmother, Evelyn. She wasn't wealthy by any means. But before she passed, when I was in my second year of med school, she'd left me $60,000 in a joint account. My name had been added when I turned 18. She told me, "Don't waste this on bills or nonsense. Use it when the time is right to do something meaningful." I had used the money sparingly. Part of it helped cover rent during my first hospital rotation, another portion paid for flights to residency interviews, but the majority. I saved it. I had dreams. I wanted to open a small clinic one day, serving underserved neighborhoods. What my family didn't know was that my grandmother had originally intended to divide the inheritance 3 ways between me, my mom, and Carol, but after watching how they treated me during a holiday visit, she rewrote her will, quietly, no drama. She removed their names and left it all to me. "You're the only one I trust to do something good with it," she'd told me. "They'll just waste it," because the account had originally been set up jointly with my mom when I was a teen. She mistakenly assumed she still had access to it. She had been telling people for months, "Once Ethan's a doctor, we'll finally remodel the kitchen." I haven't paid much attention until my cousin mentioned that my mom and Ron had scheduled a contractor visit for the same weekend as my graduation. That contractor never showed. Why? Because after graduation, I moved every remaining cent into a new account in my name only. I closed the old one for good, then I donated a portion to the community clinic I hope to work with someday. I included a note with my name and graduation photo. If my family wouldn't celebrate my success, I'd at least make sure the fallout helped someone else. The calls started almost immediately. Gary's voice roared through the phone. "That was your mother's account. She's had her name on it since you were a kid. That money was for the family." I didn't flinch. "You're right," I said calmly. "It was for family." But apparently, you thought a cruise was more important than the family member who made it possible. Click, and Carol left a voice message, disbelief dripping from her tone. Do you even know what you've done? Your mother is beside herself. We didn't think. We didn't think, that's what they all kept repeating. We didn't think, exactly. They hadn't thought, not about what it meant for me to stand alone at my biggest milestone. Not about how much time, sacrifice, and effort went into that moment. Not about the little boy in me who still craved hearing, "We're proud of you." Instead, I heard only silence, mockery, and entitlement. So no, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't regret mailing the framed diploma or the photo of the empty chairs. And I certainly didn't regret what I did next. I updated every single legal and medical document I had. Bank accounts, emergency contacts, beneficiary designations. I replaced every family member's name with one name, Marcus. My best friend, the person who had stayed up with me during exam nights. The guy who ran mock residency interviews with me. Who flew himself across the country for my graduation, bought his own suit, and held up a sign that read, "Proud of my brother, Dr. Ethan." Our 2 nights after the ceremony, I took Marcus out to dinner. After dessert, I handed him a sealed envelope. He frowned. "What's this?" I smiled. "It's me choosing my real family." He didn't say anything. Just stared at the envelope, his eyes a little red. Meanwhile, my mom kept calling. Her last voicemail was a strange blend of anger and sadness. "You think money makes you better than us. You think a little degree erases your roots. We're still your family, Ethan, no matter how far you run." But she was wrong. Family isn't blood. It's not the people who raise you. It's the people who stand by you when you have nothing. The people who cheer the loudest when you finally achieve something. Most importantly, family is who stays when the spotlight turns on you. My so-called family had vanished, so I moved forward. 2 weeks after graduation, while unpacking takeout after a long residency orientation, there was a knock at my door. Not loud, not desperate, confident, like whoever it was believed they had every right to be there. When I opened the door halfway, my mother stood there. Her hair was wind-swept. Her cheeks flushed from either the wine or her anger. Ron stood a few feet behind her, arms crossed, scanning the hallway like he expected security to jump out at any moment. I said nothing. My mom blinked, as though she didn't recognize me. Maybe it was the white coat, or the fact that I didn't immediately open the door wider like I used to. Like I had when I was still trying to earn her approval. She cleared her throat. "Ethan, can we come in?" I tilted my head. "Why?" She looked shocked, as though the question itself was an insult because we need to talk. Face to face, I stepped into the doorway, blocking it completely. We could have done that 2 weeks ago. At graduation, Ron snorted. "Come on, man. Are you really still hung up on that? We congratulated you, didn't we?" "No," I said flatly. "You ridiculed me. Then prioritized a Caribbean buffet over showing up for your own son." My mom's eyes flashed. "That's not fair. You didn't give us time to explain." I raised an eyebrow. "You texted me saying, 'Watching you pretend to be a doctor sounds painful.' What exactly was I supposed to wait for?" The punchline. Ron stepped forward, his voice low. "You think you're better than us just because you got some fancy degree." I stared him down. "No. I think I finally see you for who you are." My mom's voice cracked. "Ethan, please, you're still our son." I shook my head. "Funny. 2 weeks ago, you said I was pretending to be a doctor. But now that the money's gone, suddenly I'm worth a visit." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just guilt, maybe even shame, but not enough to change anything. I stepped back, closing the door halfway. "You flew across the country for this," I said softly. "But you couldn't make it across a stage for me. That tells me everything I need to know." She reached out as if to stop the door but hesitated. Her voice was small. Can't we just start over? I paused. Then I said, we already did. I just started without you, and I closed the door. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. I just stood there listening to the silence until their footsteps finally faded down the hall. The fallout wasn't over, of course. Word spread fast through the family. Some called me a genius. Others said I was cruel. My cousin Drew texted, "You did what we all wish we had the guts to do," but not everyone supported me. Group chats removed me. Facebook posts stopped tagging me. My mom's side of the family, those who had never liked Grandma Evelyn anyway, acted like I had robbed a sacred family vault. One uncle I hadn't spoken to in 5 years sent me a message that simply said, "You'll regret this." Blood is blood, but I didn't regret it. I went to work. I wore my white coat with pride. I hung my diploma on my office wall, not the copy I mailed to my mom, but a new one, framed beneath a photo of me and Marcus grinning like fools under the university banner. And I kept building. 3 years passed. I completed the hardest years of my life as a medical resident. Long shifts stretching into 48 hours, missed birthdays, missed holidays, missed sleep, but I grew. I healed patients. Held hands with the dying and scared, cried in elevators. Laughed in break rooms at 3 a.m. I became a doctor not just in title but in spirit, the kind of doctor who doesn't flinch, who stands his ground, who listens before speaking, who speaks with purpose when he does, and while my professional life grew, so did something else. That tiny idea I'd planted after graduation, the clinic. With Marcus's help and generous donors I'd met during residency, I opened a small community clinic on the edge of a neglected neighborhood in the city. It wasn't flashy. 1 floor, 5 rooms, 2 doctors, a nurse, and a volunteer desk, but it was ours. A place where no one asked if you had insurance first. Where we kept the lights on late because sickness doesn't stop at 5 p.m. I named it after my grandmother, the Evelyn R. Wellness Center. Her photo hung in the lobby. Every day I walked in and felt grounded. I rarely thought about my family anymore. Not because I was avoiding it, just because I'd found peace. The kind of peace that comes when you stop chasing people who were never running toward you to begin with. But peace, as life has taught me, is often interrupted. It was late October when the email arrived. Subject: Family Reunion, Uncle Rich's 75th birthday. The message was chipper, sent to a long CC list. Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. We're planning something special for Uncle Rich's 75th, potluck-style backyard bash. You know how it goes. I almost deleted it, then I noticed a line at the bottom, tacked on like an afterthought. P.S. Ethan, we really hope you come. It's been too long. Your mom said she misses you. It wasn't signed by my mom. It was signed by my cousin Olivia, the family diplomat. I didn't reply. 2 days later, a handwritten letter arrived at the clinic. No return address, neat cursive I hadn't seen in years. Ethan, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from. Maybe I don't deserve to ask for anything. But if you can find it in your heart to come, I'd be grateful, not to talk about the past. Not to argue, just to see you, just to see my son again. I've changed, I swear I have. I know it's late, but I'm still your mother. Love, Mom. She underlined love twice. I stared at that word for a long time. Then I folded the letter and slipped it into a drawer I hadn't opened in over a year, the same drawer where I kept the photo of the 12 empty chairs. I didn't look at the photo. I just closed the drawer, and yet ... I went. I'm not fully sure why. Curiosity, maybe? Or the desire to close the door properly, not slam it, not lock it. Just close it. The reunion was in a rented hall. Balloons, cheap catering. Plastic tablecloths, exactly the kind of event my family loved. The parking lot was full when I arrived. I stepped inside in a crisp button-up and slacks, feeling the fall breeze sting my cheeks. Inside, it was noisy, kids running around, people laughing. A DJ played a too loud oldies playlist. Someone had already spilled punch on the gift table. The moment I walked in, heads turned, silence, a collective intake of breath, like some old family muscle memory kicked in. Someone whispered, "Is that Ethan?" I nodded politely and moved toward the back wall. I didn't come for small talk. I came to see if there was anything worth salvaging. Then I saw her, my mother. She looked older, softer, her hair streaked with silver. Her cardigan too big, her dress slightly wrinkled. Her eyes locked onto mine like she was afraid I might vanish. "Ethan," she breathed. "Hi," I replied. She stepped forward. "You came." I did. Tears sprang up instantly. "I didn't know if you'd even open the letter." I waited for an apology, ownership, anything more than guilt. Instead, she reached for my hand. "I've missed you so much." I gently stepped back. "You missed the chance to show up when it mattered." She flinched. "I'm not here to fight," I added. "I just wanted you to see me, not out of spite. So you'd know I'm doing fine, without your support. Without the money you expected, without any of the things you thought I needed you for." A pause. She lowered her eyes. "I deserve that." "Yes," I said simply. "You do." I handed her a small envelope. Inside was a folded pamphlet, "The Evelyn R. Wellness Center," with a handwritten note, "In case you ever want to understand what I've been building and why I stopped waiting for you to be proud of me." Her hands shook as she took it. I didn't linger. I greeted Uncle Rich, spoke briefly to a few cousins. Long enough to show I wasn't hiding, that I'd built a life without them. Then, as I turned to leave, someone called my name. It was Marcus. I hadn't invited him. He just showed up. "I figured you shouldn't face them alone." He held up a coffee from our favorite cafe. "Thought you might want an exit drink." I laughed for the first time that day. "Let's go," I said. "The clinic opens early tomorrow." As we drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. My mother stood at the hall entrance, pamphlet pressed to her chest, eyes locked on my car as it pulled away. She didn't wave. Neither did I, because some endings don't need closure. They just need peace, and I finally had.